Your relationship with money matters. I'm Michelle Perkins, and this is the Money and You podcast, where I will be breaking down your relationship with money, offering tough love money tips, and a money dating plan that will focus on lifting the barriers to success to help pave the way for better money practices and increased wealth. It's time to take control to live a limit-free life. It starts today. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Money and You Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host, and so glad you are here. We have a fabulous show for you today. We have a great financial master here to talk about planning and strategy and all kinds of interesting things so that you can invest your money properly and grow it and ultimately have the freedom that you're looking for. So I'm going to bring our guest on in just a minute. I wanted to just mention something about dating your money, which I love the idea of dating your money, which just means spending time with it, getting to know it, paying attention to it as if you would with a person so that you can develop a positive relationship with money, because so many people do not have a positive relationship with it. And so nurturing that relationship requires a commitment to get to know it and to spend time. So I like to refer to dating your money. And I like people to have a weekly money date. That said, a lot of people don't know what to do on those money dates. And so they might pay a few bills or something, and that's about it. And that doesn't really create the relationship that I'm hoping for. So I do have a money dating program that I'm going to be rolling out again at the beginning of 2022. So if you're interested in that and learning how to date your money and have me hold you accountable to certain things, that would be something you can reach out and talk to me about. You can reach me at michelle@limitfreelife.com, 2 L's. And with that, I want to get going here with our guest because she is all about setting financial goals and reaching them. And her name is Eunicia Peret, and she is a seasoned executive and business owner, accomplished financial consultant, mentor, and educator. On her own journey, she went from rebuilding her financial independence from nearly nothing to over 6 figures in less than a year using the same methodology she uses with her clients. In addition, she's worked with and set hundreds of clients on their paths to financial independence and wealth optimization. Eunicia is a senior contributor to Brainz Magazine and collaborates with many globally known thought leadership experts. In her past, she's worked with the world's most renowned financial organizations, such as Citibank, AMEX, Aviva, SunTrust, etc. Eunicia was also a trusted advisor to top-level executives and invested heavily in identifying leading practices when it comes to delivering value to her clients. Eunicia is passionate about seeing her true transformation in her clients' financial success stories. She's a happy wife and proud mommy of 2 amazing children, and in her spare time, she enjoys spending time with family, spending time in nature, and reading self-development books. Well, we have that in common, Eunicia, so welcome. So happy to have you here today. And yeah, I love my nature and my self-development books as well. So, as well as my family. Didn't mean to leave them out. But so thank you so much for being here today. And I am so excited. I love the name of your company, Empowered Financial Planner. That in itself makes you feel good. And so I want to talk about how you empower people with their money. And you have a very extensive financial background and history. And I think actually, before we even start that, can you tell us about your background? And you alluded to going from nothing to 6 figures. I'd love to kind of hear about that as well.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, it's a pleasure to be here, Michelle, with you and your amazing podcast listeners and show listeners as well. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, that is a very strategic question, especially when individuals look at my background. They say, well, we know that you must have been making pretty good money. You must have earned a nice income. How is it possible that you went from nothing to multi 6 figures in such a short time? The whole idea behind that is really the reality that a lot of high net worth earners are battling with. It doesn't matter what we do at the end of the day, whether we're attorneys, doctors, strategy consultants, you name it, the situation that arises from us earning high incomes is almost the same for all individuals. Not necessarily everyone. There are exceptions, but what ends up happening is the more money we make, the nicer the toys, the bigger the houses, the bigger the cars, the nicer the vacations. And because of that, oftentimes we end up setting ourselves up for failure when it comes to our long-term financial trajectory. And similar to so many other individuals, we did the same thing. But it wasn't necessarily that we did it because we didn't know. As a financial individual for many years, of course, we know the power of money. We know the power of savings. We know the power of putting the money to work for us. But oftentimes it boils down to having the right partners to help us navigate the uncharted territories that perhaps we're not the experts in. And when it comes to financial planning, financial optimization, way too often we find ourselves in situations. I found myself in a situation where my financial experts were all about how much I had in investable assets. It wasn't about building my financial success. It wasn't about building my financial trajectory. They knew that we loved real estate as an example. And because of that, they said, you know, we don't really want to mess with this because a lot of her money is going in real estate versus really having that money to invest long term on the financial side. And so because of that, the lack of exposure and the lack of having those strategic partners that would have been willing to help me get to where I wanted to get to, really kind of put us in a situation where when I started looking at what we were missing out on, when I started asking the tough questions as a strategy consultant in my prior life, I realized that the financial system, the financial services industry as a whole, is not meant for us as the consumer. It's truly meant to help those that already have money put more money in their pocket. And since the big question of what are we missing, and that's how the Empowered Financial Planner was born, and that's how our own financial situation went from not knowing what we were doing to truly being optimized on many, many different fronts when it comes to money.
I love that. That is so important. And I agree with you. The financial services industry is, it's very segmented out. So when you talk to a financial advisor, you're not going to see that big picture of, the various, everybody tells you to diversify, but that doesn't really, what you're doing is really, I think, helping people to see all the options, it sounds like.
Absolutely. It's about the options, and it's about, when it comes to options, it's not just financial options. How do we make the money grow within the financial system? That's very important for sure, because way too often individuals are steering away from it because either they don't understand, or perhaps at some point they might have been burnt by a tough or negative situation, adverse situation. But it's more about understanding how do we even think about our money. And you're the master at this, right? From thinking about the money mindset standpoint. But one big question that always comes up is, should I pay off my house? Mm-hmm. And when we sit down and we look at, for example, the numbers of should you or should you not pay off the house, paying off the house is for the faint of heart, frankly, for those individuals that are just focused on having the simplest life possible. They're not focused on accumulating wealth. They're not focused on what they're going to leave behind. And the whole idea is that in order for us to have the financial success, to have the financial independence that we're looking for, we have to be willing to ask the tough questions. But more importantly, we have to be willing and in a position where we're going to fight for ourselves and we're going to do what's right for our money to serve us, not the other way around.
Right. That's so important. So, so you are a person that people can come to with all of their money questions, not just where to put their money in terms of an investment, but just to look at the whole money picture and see what the goals are, what the lifestyle is, and really, to design a strategy and a plan, which your work history was very much about strategic, problem solving and looking at companies and I'm assuming individuals as well, in terms of creating strategy for them. So that's something that I guess as a career move, that was a natural for you. I mean, how did you go from what you were doing in larger companies to this business that you've created for yourself?
So that's a great question, Michelle. And it's what everything that you said can be unpacked into so many different topics in themselves. But that last question, I had gotten to a point where I had to make some major decisions with my career. And when it was actually before I made the move out of corporate America. My husband and I sat down and we looked at our financial portfolio, and it dawned on me that the financial so-called experts, again, that we were dealing with were not necessarily acting perhaps in our best interest. And when we looked when hindsight is always 2020, when we look in retrospect, what we realized was that there was a lot of self-service that was done using our account. And at that point in time, I looked at my husband. I said, listen, what you do, what he was doing at that point in time, it would have been a perfect fit to have a financial kind of consulting, strategy consulting, because he was already a financial partner in so many ways to his clients, and his clients were always coming to him and his team for help. I said, why don't you set something up on your own as another branch to your company? And he looked at me and he said, I would love to, because yes, it's a huge need and my clients have been asking for it, and they're not happy when I refer them out, but I don't have the bandwidth. So it was at that point in time, he said, the question came back to me. He said, why don't you help me set that up? And then you can go back to corporate America and do whatever it is that you want. At that point in time, I was going through the partnership process at Deloitte. And the big question was, did I want to become a partner in a big four consulting firm, or did I want to take matters into my own hands and do something different with my life? Of course, I chose the harder path, as I normally do. And it was interesting at the very beginning, because there were a lot of people that were telling me I was crazy. At what point I personally thought I was crazy. And it really took, once again, my husband to remind me that not only was I not crazy, but way too often individuals do the things that don't serve them towards what it is that they're here on this earth to do. And I'm sure you talk to people all the time when it comes to careers, and how do we fit into the mold that we were meant to fit in, to being who we were meant to be, to add the value we were meant to add. And it was at that point in time he said to me something along the lines of, he said, what you're doing is not only commendable, but you're doing the hard work that so many individuals at your stature, after I've had put so many years in my corporate career, would not be willing to do. Not because they're not smart enough, but because they literally have to start at zero. Not from a knowledge standpoint, not from expertise standpoint, but you're literally starting what others would perceive to be a brand new career. How do you go about that? And so that's kind of how I took it was a cold plunge to say, I'm going to give this a shot. And if at first it really started out by establishing another business model to what my husband was already doing and helping his clients with. And long story short, I fell in love with just seeing the big ahas in my clients' eyes, and seeing the tears in many cases where they looked at me and they said, well, it's pretty clear I've been burned. How do I rectify this? And being in a position where we can help our clients not only rectify, but come out on the other side so much stronger, gives me purpose and joy in everything that I do every day.
Oh, I love that. That's what it's about, purpose and joy in everything you do every day. So what a beautiful way to say it. Yeah. And, I know from having had a corporate career and then going into business for myself, it is a big leap, and we don't really know that much going into it. I had some preconceived ideas of how it was all going to go. And as I'm sure entrepreneurship is it's very, very different. So
it is very different.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear a couple of challenges that you might have faced doing this, because I do think that people are afraid to make that leap. They want to, but the security of the life they know can't really be replicated as an entrepreneur right away anyway, or for a while. So what are some of the challenges that you found? Clearly you're happy that you made that call. And I'm very clear on the advantages. What would you say to people who are thinking about that? What are a couple of the hurdles that you ran into that I'm sure you resolved?
I think one of the things that I would tell individuals that are even remotely thinking about becoming their own, I hate to call it bosses, because you're not your own boss. It's just really your own advocate at the end of the day. if you're in a situation where you're in a corporate environment or working for someone else and you're thinking about it, is you can't wait too long, because the longer you wait, the bigger the problem, the bigger the problem that is going to become. It's going to constantly eat at your heels. You're going to be thinking about it more and more as time goes by. You're probably going to be less and less satisfied with what you do. And you're going to probably, your level of fear is going to increase, because as years go by, you earn more money, you have a much stronger position, you are a bigger and more esteemed leader in whatever it is that you do. And then the big questions come up, where you go, what do I do if something happens? What do I do if I'm not successful? And that was probably one of the biggest things for me. I don't take this the wrong way. I don't regret any of the days that I spent working for the amazing companies that I've worked for. I feel that everything that I've learned and all of the adversities that I've encountered as part of growing in those leadership roles prepared me for what it is that I do today. But I can't help but think, what would this look like? How many more lives, individual lives, could I have impacted? Small business owners that are not getting the support that we're offering to them and to their teams on day-to-day basis. How many more lives could we have impacted if maybe I would have made the decision earlier?
Right.
What would my own family have looked like if maybe I would have said enough is enough earlier and spent more time with them, and giving them the choice, the chance of seeing mommy home more often, but given me the liberty at the same time of, and the joy of knowing that I was there versus the regrets of I've spent too long. So that would be my guidance. As far as the adversities, one of the biggest adversities that I feel I've come into in my new role as a business owner, when I first became a business owner, was I did not know that I could pay myself. That was not a concept to me. My husband laughs at me all the time, because he never really wanted to work for somebody else. His dream was also to be a business owner, and he made that work for himself very early in his career. But for me, I did not know how that worked. I saw it with my husband, but I didn't really understand, because, well, paycheck was coming in like clockwork every other week, right? And everything was getting paid, and I didn't have to break a sweat over any of it. And so the adversity for me, or the thing that I had to get over, was the mindset of, can I even do this? Am I smart enough to do this? Of course I'm smart enough. I've reached some levels the levels that I've reached are levels that not many business owners or not many leaders reach in their careers.
Right.
But the reality is, as business owners, we have a different mindset, and we have different fears that are grappling at us. And one of the big ones that I personally had to overcome was this idea of that imposter syndrome of, am I good enough to be doing this? And I'll tell you, it was one of my, at that point in time, it was a business, her focus was very heavily on real estate investing. And I was kind of telling her what I was going through. And I had a very, very lucrative offer as a partner on the table from one of the other big consulting firms internationally. And she looked at me and she said, I'm puzzled. I said, I don't get how you're puzzled. It's a matter of continuing to do business, being a business owner, and muddling my way through this thing, or going back to something that I already know, and I'm going to have international level of international reach. I'm going to be heading up an entire practice. And she looked at me and she said, precisely. They're trusting you. Yes, they're paying you a ton of money to be doing that, but you don't have the faith in yourself to be building something for you and for your family and for your own financial independence. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to be working for somebody else if you go back.
Right.
And so that was a big aha moment to me. I actually told her, I said, you sound just like my husband. And she knew my husband. She said, well, maybe you should go back and have a deeper chat with Daniel, because it sounds like he has quite a bit of common sense.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. I love that you were just open and honest about your imposter syndrome, because I think, I work with people all the time who tell me the same thing, and the success they've achieved is wonderful and incredible a lot of the time. And so that doesn't really have to do with whether you've achieved all kinds of success and had a lot of accomplishments. There's something about doing something very different and doing, jumping into the unknown of starting a business that is, I mean, it's all on you. It's a unique situation compared to a corporate situation where you have people all around, all trying to make the organization work. So, but I love that you said that, because it does show up for most people. And
it does. And I think the people that would say it doesn't show up for them are probably not being quite as
Yeah.
upfront as they should be.
Yeah.
It may not show up in the moment, but at some point, and they're at the beginning of their journey as a business owner or / entrepreneur, it would have certainly showed up. I will tell you, it's no longer there for me, because I know I live and I see the value in that we deliver to our clients every single day. I see it in joy. I see it in tears. I see it in the big ahas that are taking place. But at the beginning, when I was establishing things and going through the motions of how do we refine this process, it's all about having a process that is customizable to the clients.
Yeah.
I had my own doubts. And then as I started seeing it and having that proof of concept and knowing that it's there, the clients are getting the value, that we're doing what we're saying we're doing for the clients, and we're seeing it on the other end in terms of the experiences that they're having, and the results that they're seeing. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But it definitely takes a moment to get there.
Well, yes, agreed. And thank you for that explanation. Do you, would you walk us through, because what you do is a little different, and not many people have probably worked with somebody like you, I don't think. So can you kind of walk us through a customer experience? I'd love to kind of hear a little more about the process.
Absolutely. So our process at the core of it all really starts with focusing in on what are our clients trying to achieve, what are their goals. And part of the methodology that we've designed is focused, or at the very onset is focused on the goals, because way too often we talk about goals, but goals can be something that we either truly embrace and we live and we experience, or it's just a formality because we can then say we did the goals. And what I've found in working with clients is that all too often, when individuals don't really understand what they're trying to achieve, that's when mishaps happen, and they end up putting themselves in financial choices that perhaps were not necessarily the most lucrative for them. They were also not aligned to their goals. They're not aligned to their risk profile. It's not just enough to say, for example, from a risk standpoint, what is your level of risk? Do you want to run at 100 miles an hour, or would you much rather be in the 50-mile-an-hour range? What does that mean to the client?
Right.
And so what we do is, when we work with our clients and we go through the goal setting process, is we really try to understand how would certain things make them feel. How did 2008, 2009 make them feel if they've gone through that and they've had significant losses? How would they stomach that if they had to go through it again?
Yeah.
Because then from there, what we discover is that we need to focus on kind of 3 big pillars in order to truly optimize what's happening with money, with our investments, with how money is working for or against us. And this is where it's so different. And individuals don't know that the services that we even offer exist, because it takes it leaps and bounds above and beyond what they would have experienced in a typical financial consulting, kind of a financial advisory kind of a platform. One of the pillars is taxation. How are we thinking about our taxes? Do we want to pay taxes now, later, or never? Most individuals can't even get their head around what does never mean, and how do we even get there? We see too many people that are high earners that don't even know that option exists. Their whole mentality is set in the perception that I make too much money to qualify for that. And it just makes me, it just tears me to my core to see that I was one of those individuals. I was making a lot of money, and I thought that I didn't qualify for a lot of different things. when in reality, I could have used those strategies and could have been so much further ahead. The other component that we embrace heavily in our methodology and our approach is the concept of how do we take control of our money? Especially right now, we see people flocking to precious metals. We see them flocking to cryptocurrencies. We see them flocking to everything that historically they would have felt so uncomfortable with,
Right.
because they're afraid of what's going to happen with the rate of inflation. They're afraid of taxation. So the big question then that we have to address is, how do we take control of their money? Now, here's the deal. That looks different for everyone. It's going to look different from between person A and person B, even if their situations were exactly the same. Again, it goes back to their beliefs. It goes back to their goals. Their goals and their beliefs are going to be different, which ultimately is most likely going to lead to a different solution. And then last but not least, a lot of people have this notion that I will deal with retirement when I'm closer to retirement.
Yeah.
What we're finding is that the more people procrastinate on dealing with the hard concept of retirement because they don't want to think about the fact that we're aging and we're going to get there, the harder it is to be able to retire, not like a millionaire, and now it has to be like multimillionaires. So then what we also focus on as kind of our third pillar is, how do we make sure that when it comes to retirement planning, that the clients are optimized and that their retirement is going to not only be commensurate to the lifestyle that they're looking to achieve, but it's also in alignment to what's happening with tax, or probably going to be happening with taxation, which everybody's expecting is going to potentially go through the roof, but also with the rate of inflation. And so what we've identified is that by looking at those kind of pillars and methodologies that we're looking at, it gives us an opportunity to very much be comprehensive in our approach. And it's not just lip service. It's truly where we have situations that are the level of expertise is not on our team. One of the big things that we're known for is we will bring the experts in. We do not propone to be a jack of all trades and at the end of the day be a master of none simply because we're trying to get a client in. Not at all. On the contrary, what we tell our clients is, if your financial team is not talking to each other, don't you think they should? Because when we're thinking about taxes, I can tell you enough, I'm very dangerous when it comes to that front. But am I the tax expert? No. That's where we want to make sure that the tax experts, either it is somebody that they're already working with, that we bring them in so that they understand what's happening with the client's overall portfolio, or vice versa. What about the financial advisor? Do they ever talk to the CPA or the tax preparer? Probably not. For business owners, but even individuals that are working in corporate America or in an environment where they're working for somebody else, what about what's going to happen with estate planning and protecting ourselves from a legal standpoint? Are we set up there? Has anybody ever really considered the fact that the attorney should be talking to the financial expert, or perhaps with the CPA, or all three of them should be in a meeting together? That's a lot of what not only we tell our clients should happen, but we act as the catalyst for a lot of our clients to make sure that those things are in place. Because if they're not, and if the financial team is not talking together, which right now they're not incentivized to do so, what we find is that too many individuals leave a ton of money on the table simply because we don't have the right stakeholders at the same table talking about what is the right thing, what are the right solutions for the clients.
Yeah, I so agree with you. That is a huge benefit, and most people, you're right, including myself, the people aren't talking, and so really interesting. And I find myself thinking about that. I find myself with the tax accountant thinking, okay, so because everyone has their own concern. His concern is keeping taxes as low as possible, and in the back of my mind, I am thinking, is that where we want to be, with respect to other things? So very interesting. So you really play a unique role in this whole dynamic. So
We do, and the reason we do, Michelle, is because again, to your point from very early in the interview, I what I found is that the strategy consulting, and this is why I'm so thankful for every waking moment that I've spent in the industry. It really made me understand that there are holes that we need to gaps that we need to fill.
right.
One of the things that you were saying about the tax preparer, the CPA is going to say, well, let's figure out how we minimize taxes in the current year. One of the things that we have to consider is, in addition to minimizing taxes for the current year, how do we make sure that we minimize our exposure to taxes down the road?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the big misconceptions in individuals is, well, I'm going to be in a smaller tax bracket by the time I reach retirement. What we're seeing, especially with individuals that are in higher earning classes, is that that's not going to be the case, because they would have lost a lot of the tax write-offs that they can actually take. They would have lost a lot of the different loopholes that they would have access to in order to minimize their tax burden. Not only that, but if they worked really hard and if they've done things at least halfway right, there would have accumulated or amassed some wealth. We have a client, and I'll never forget when he came to me. He said, "Yes, Eunicia, but I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket by the time I reach retirement." And one of the things that we did for him is projecting what income would look like. His income in retirement is going to be significantly higher than what he's paying himself as a business owner right now, because again of the guidance that he was receiving from his CPA. Right. So if we're looking at things, if we're really starting to look at things with the end goal in mind, the picture that we see is one that is starkly different than what our perceptions will allow us to believe.
So interesting. What would you say to people who come to you at a later age? Maybe they haven't done as much as, they should have along the way, or they've had some setbacks. I mean, I know so many people, I must hear this all the time. This is just not where I planned to be when I was 50 or 40 or 60. And, that's life. Life happens. And so what do you do with people who are a little more, later in the game coming to you?
I love that question. Oftentimes, what we see with individuals that are so-called later in the game is that they've been in situations where they have experienced some of those adversities. They have experienced the losses. They are afraid. I'll give you an example, a perfect example. A husband and wife. Husband was significantly older than the wife, and when we started working together, the questions that were coming out of our conversations with the gentleman were absolutely spot on. It was clear that he was having the aha moments. It was clear that he was wanting to overcome and get past all of the negativity. But what was happening was, the wife, the more we started talking about the strategy, the more we started looking at what are the solutions, the higher her barriers were going. What we found out subsequently was that she really wasn't investing any time in understanding the same exact things that she didn't know all along. And when I had the discussion with the husband, I said, how can we together, working with you, you're her life partner, how can we get through to her? What he said to me was just shocking. He said, "Eunicia, you've done more than anybody could have. You've gotten her to the point where she wants to do more, but she's afraid because of everything we've been burnt with in the past." So my guidance to individuals that even perceive themselves, oftentimes what you perceive yourself, it's too late, you're too far behind, may not be reality. My guidance to anybody that sees themselves in that position where it might be too late, we're too far down the path, is be open-minded and understand what your options are, but truly be open-minded and work with partners that are on your side, especially if you've experienced adversities, especially if you've experienced losses before. There's probably a good reason for that, and most likely it's either truly not your fault. It might not even be the fault of the individual you worked with. It may just be the choices that were made along the way, and that was probably because you didn't know that you had access to different options. So give yourself the grace of not looking backwards, not feeling like you need to punish yourself, and rather embracing the options that you do have at your disposal and take baby steps. You don't have to make all the shifts at once, but experience baby steps so that you can actually see that utopia is possible. But we have to start believing in utopia before we're going to actually realize it or get there.
Oh, I love that. So when you are working with a client, you do the strategy piece and set the goals and come up with some sort of a roadmap. And then you have access to resources and people who can help execute some things. And then do you stay, I mean, is it an ongoing relationship? I'm assuming it is. So
it is, it very much is. So we work with clients in two kind of environments. We have some clients that we work with for a period of 6 months where it's very close. We're very kind of, if you were to think about it, attached at the hip, right? We go through the methodology, we go through the awareness, we do the blueprinting, we do the strategic pathing. We actually look at what could utopia look like, and then if the decision is for them to want our help, we embed ourselves and we are kind of the intermediaries in helping them see success with the plan that has been designed. Of course, they are very much there along the way, and they're a catalyst to making this thing happen, right? Nobody should ever design a financial anything for you if you're not involved. Don't ever allow yourself to be in a situation where somebody just quote unquote does it for you. The moment that happens, it can be the most well-intentioned individual. It's not their money. So they're going to do the best that they can, but realize that they're probably doing the same thing for other clients as well, and they too have a life. So you have to be vested. But then we also work with our higher end net earners, as well as with successful business owners, because their financial situation is a lot more intricate, because they want to be in leveraged investments, because they want to experience what all are the truly uber wealthy doing. That's where we work with them. And generally our engagement process is about a year long. But then, of course, even after the 6 months or the year-long process, we're still there for our clients. We don't go anywhere. It's just a matter of how can we have all hands on deck to make sure that their problems get addressed, to make sure that their plan gets set in place, and that they're starting to see the success that perhaps they wish they would have had in years prior.
Yeah, fabulous. And what are some of these leveraged investments that you're talking about?
That's a great question. It really could be anything. We have clients that are asking us all the time about, for example, real estate or more exotic, different types of real estate investments. As an example, most financial so-called advisors or experts don't necessarily, most often, they don't go into those. And the reason they don't is because, again, financial services industry is not incentivized to be pushing money away towards other types of investments. But what we see is that a lot of the business owners, especially, as well as top level executives, they've already dabbled with different things. So for us to tell them, well, you shouldn't do that because, and list all the reasons, what we do is we help them think through the pros and the cons of, okay, if somebody wants to go into a fractional ownership of some sort of a real estate investment, how does that fare to compare to something else? And that's where a lot of our expert partners are coming together, and we work collaboratively with the client and with our expert partners to say, okay, what are the best solutions that again align to the goals, that again align to the philosophies and to the beliefs that our clients share, to make sure that a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, the solution and the results that they're realizing are in alignment to what they were hoping to realize, and while minimizing all of the risk and the adversity that perhaps they don't want to deal with.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you've brought up their beliefs and their values and their feelings. So you are, as much as you're advising them and helping them with the practical side of what to do, you are acknowledging that those things play a role, which is a lot of the money mindset work or beliefs that people grow up with or whatever that drive a lot of these decisions. So
absolutely, there's nothing wrong. I'm sure you would agree with me on when I say this. There's nothing worse actually than someone going to sleep at night with the fear of of money on their mindset, right?
Yeah.
What if we could leave that fear at the door? Maybe we don't even have that fear at all because we've done the mindset work, because we have the right plan in place, because we are working with the right team, because we do know that the methodology works. It's not just something that it's, we're doing it because it's always been done, but rather it's something that is customized to you. That's the biggest thing that those are the biggest factors that I feel can enable and do enable people all the time to banish the fear and just live a freer life, and a life full of purpose versus full of fear and regret.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's the recurring theme here with the guests that I have on is allowing your money to support a life of purpose, joy, meaning, whatever that is. And I think that's so important. They're so tied together, your career and your money, and to be able to have money be, your support system in that and not be a source of fear or conflict is really important. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Huge.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this, and you, I can tell how heart-centered you are and how invested in your clients' success and happiness is, and that's a really valuable thing. I love that you are more of an empowerment mentor versus an advisor who definitely is going to lean in certain directions in terms of directing the client. So I think
Absolutely. We do feel, and I feel wholeheartedly that individuals, those that feel empowered when it comes to their money, that when it comes to their financials, those are the ones that are able to experience the joy of really living the life of purpose that, to your point, they're looking for, and being able to do what it is with their money that makes them happy, that makes them tick. So that's hence the empowered financial planner. It's funny, oftentimes individuals will ask me, well, are you, is this whole idea what you do, is it supposed to teach me how to manage my own money?
yeah.
And the idea is, because a lot of people are thinking, no, I don't want to do what you do. And what I tell my clients is, if you ever want to do what I do, there is such a huge need in the marketplace for people that are well intentioned and they're willing to set aside their personal agenda to help others. Just let me know. I'll teach you everything you need to know. But no, this is more about you becoming empowered, because when you're empowered, when you feel empowered, a whole world of opportunities is opens up to you. The world is your oyster at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's a great place to wrap up, I guess, because that's just such a beautiful sentiment. So, can you let people know how to reach you, and where are you located? You're in Atlanta?
Yes, we are in Atlanta, although we have a presence nationwide. We have part of our team is in Utah as well. And so we have a lot of clients all throughout the United States and California. Also, we have quite a few clients in California. Their taxes are totally on you guys' minds. So it's very appealing from that standpoint. But we're in Atlanta. And for anybody that wants to get in touch with us, you can easily follow us. You can go to our website, www.empoweredfinancialplanner.com. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, either under Empowered Financial Planner or under Eunicia Peret. It's EUNICIA. Peret, you see the name up there. It's pretty unique, so it's easy to find. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. If we can ever be a resource, my only request is that if you reach out to us, please let us know that you heard about it here on Michelle's show. So that we can not only give you shout outs, but also be thankful to Michelle for getting us connected.
Thank you. That's very kind. And I am grateful to you for being here today and sharing what you do with our listeners. I think it's a great service, and I'm so glad you brought this to people so that they know that it even exists, because it definitely is not. It's not as common as it should be. And so, yeah, I think the impartiality of it is really beneficial to people. So thank you. And
Thank you.
I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. And yeah, thank you again for being here. I hope people will connect with you. Again, it's empoweredfinancialplanner.com. It's on the screen. I'll put it in the show notes. And I think you anyone listening could absolutely benefit from a conversation with Eunicia and her team. So listeners, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you got some ideas and some things churning around in your mind about how to increase your wealth and really pursue some maybe new financial goals and get some help doing that. We are here every Monday at ubngo.com, streaming at 7 o'clock on Mondays. And then after that, all the podcast platforms that you might be listening to, the Limit Free Life YouTube channel and the Limit Free Life Facebook page. So thank you so much for being here. We love bringing you financial education and advice and fun stories and all the things that get you excited about relating to your money, spending time with your money, and growing your money so that you, like Eunicia said, are not going to sleep at night with fear, but are going to sleep at night feeling good about what you've achieved in the financial area. So again, keep listening to the shows. Take advantage of the Tough Love Money Tips. Eunicia, if you're still here, I'd love a money tip from you. I usually do that at the end of the show, but when I have somebody who's a financial expert like you, I'd love for you to offer a financial tip for people.
A money tip, a huge money tip for me, this is very personal, is do not pay in taxes more than you absolutely need to. Speaking as someone who made a lot of money and paid most years more in taxes than the average median income in the United States, what I can tell you is I'm all for us paying our taxes. We have to do that. But there is nowhere that says that we have to also live a tip. So especially as we're nearing the end of the year, if you haven't had the tough conversation with especially your CPA, but also your financial professional, please do yourself a favor and make sure you do that, because otherwise you could potentially be leaving thousands and thousands of money that frankly the government wants you to have it. That's how the tax code is written, for you to have it. But again, it goes back to you wanting to do a little bit of the hard work and of course partner with individuals that can help you, and hopefully that alone is going to put some really nice chunk of change back in your pocket for 2021.
That's a great tip. Thank you. And I have done that. I have just recently had a year-end tax planning meeting, and I would advise that's such a great tip. Thank you for bringing that up, because I feel like I should have and I didn't. But yeah, great. Do it before the year is over and get some ideas, because there's still time to make some adjustments. And yeah, and if nothing else, I love the awareness of, that you get in doing that, so that you can prepare yourself, plan, whatever it takes. It's yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much. That was a great tip.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me here.
Okay, Eunicia, thank you. And we will talk to you another time. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And listeners, thank you for being here. I'm so happy that you listen to the Money and You Show. Please subscribe on either your favorite podcast channel or the Limit Free Life YouTube channel. Love to hear from you. Love reviews, and that helps us to keep wonderful guests like Eunicia coming onto the show. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.